Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And recently, a big topic for T-Mobile has been churn, right? They've talked about it at several different conferences. They brought it up again at the Capital Markets Day. And they want to be number one. They want to have the leading churn in the industry. And they're making changes and they're adapting to make that happen. So in order for them to achieve the lowest churn in the industry, and I think they said in 2023, they achieved it in 2 quarters. Out of 4, 2 of the quarters, they had the best leading churn. This year, not so much. That was AT&T. We saw that very clearly, although we have fourth quarter earnings coming up in January. It's likely to be AT&T for all 4 quarters. So, but anyway, so one big proponent to getting your churn lower and having the lowest churn is your network. So that's the slide that I pulled up. So the network build is T-Mobile is going to follow a customer-driven model, right? It's based off of AI. They're no longer going to go with the traditional build where they look at the pops and then they just throw a lot of money into the pops, right? It was mostly a population-based build. Now it's going to be more of a customer-centric build. They're going to look at those hexagons and they're going to say, okay, do we need to build here? And based on these hexagons, do we have any churn in the area? They're going to look at analytics and numbers now. And then they're going to say, okay, if we do have churn, why? Right? So they're going to pull up all of the data that they have and they're going to look at, okay, this customer or these customers left because we have weak signal here. We can see there are dropped calls. We can see there's slower speeds. So we need to build here. Right? So they know from an investment perspective, right, from the CapEx, okay, we invested capital into this specific area. So A, we don't have more people leave. And B, if we gain more people and grow that area, we know we have less of an issue with them leaving, right? And that's going to lead to better churn. That's how they're going to break this down moving forward. They're going to move away from the traditional build. So traditional methodology focused on improving network in metro and most densely populated areas, using CDC in highest customer impact areas to improve network. So they're going to really look at that moving forward, right? That's just one component to the churn, right? But it starts with the network. It really does. I think it trickles down, right? It creates a domino effect. If the network is not up to par, then they start calling customer care and then they start looking at everything more closely. They start looking at their bill. They start looking at how much they pay for the weaker signal, right? All of that creates a domino effect. And I think T-Mobile, to a certain extent, already understands that. They've already been looking at the analytics and the numbers. But going into 2025 and beyond, they're going to look at that even more closely now with this AI-driven model or the customer-centric build, right? They're going to look at that very closely. Okay, could a backhaul boost, right, could that have stopped these people from potentially leaving, right? That's how detailed they're going to look at all the statistics. But that's just one part, right? The second part, and I feel that plays hand in hand, is the value creation, right? People still look at their bill, they still look at price, and T-Mobile, I feel, is going to create additional value to keep churn lower, right? So essentially, this is what I did last night, right? I kind of compared plans, and I said to myself, if I leave, right, and I go to another carrier, I pay about the same, but I lose this, and this, right? And I think that's what T-Mobile is essentially trying to create. They're trying to get you to think that, hey, if I leave and I go to another carrier, right, if the network is good and you leave, you're going to lose a bunch of perks and value that you're going to have to pay with another carrier, and your price is similar. Right. So that's what I thought about last night when I looked at churn. Right. When I did the research, and I'm like, well, If T-Mobile's going to double down on churn and they're going to bake and create and add more value into the plans, then it's going to lead to an even better churn, right? And you heard I didn't say price, right? I didn't say they necessarily have to lower price. When they said they would have the best network and best value, they never said they would be the cheapest, right? I peeped that very early on when T-Mobile was talking about creating the best network and the best value. It was never about price, right? To some extent, they throw around 20% cheaper, blah, 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 free line here and there. But if you deeply compare, they're priced very similar. It's not much difference. So the value is a huge play. And I think T-Mobile is going to increase it in 2025, whether that's adding additional perks, rather that's making Magenta status, right? The T-Mobile Tuesdays, maybe they make that even better, right? They have so much optionality and flexibility when it comes to that. And that's just simply investing back into the customer, creating that value. As I said in the previous video, as an example, on the Go 5G Next, they could make the AAA permanent, where it's on us permanently baked into the plan. That's just one. Right? That's just an example. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's just one. That's one feature that they could add in, right? And there's several others that they could do. They could finally bring in music streaming, right? They could bring that to the plan. They could, again, like I said, they could make specifically for the higher plan, they could make T-Mobile Tuesdays and Magenta status better specifically for that plan, right? They could include something that others don't have access to. Right. It's possible. I'm just throwing out the possibilities and examples, but that's, I think, a possibility on how they create more value and keep churn low, because people are going to think, they're going to say, wait a minute, I'm going to pay this going with AT&T, but I'm going to lose all these features and perks, right? In-flight Wi-Fi. I mean, you name it. T-Mobile has it, right? I'm not saying that they have like 20 things, but they have a good amount. They have a good amount of perks and value baked into the plan that people, that's what I hear right away. I've had a few people leave, right, recently. A couple of friends, they switch carriers and they say, man, I miss T-Mobile Tuesdays. That's what they say, right? Those $5 movie tickets per line, that adds up, right? The pizzas, it's not every Tuesday, like every Tuesday isn't the best. I understand that, but T-Mobile has opportunity to create more and make that better. So that's another part, right? It's the value creation that's going to help with churn. And then third, it's got to be customer service. Customer service has to be exceptional to keep churn low, right? Because that keeps customers around. Even if there's a network issue, even if there's an issue here and there, if the customer service is great and it's exceptional, they will consider sticking around a few more months. Right? If you give them a credit, they might stick around a few more months to give you time to fix the network or give you time to make a correction, right? So customer service is very important. And T-Mobile transitioning into the AI, right? It should help, right? They want to do 75% call reductions. So they want to fix upfront very quickly, right? They want to fix the issue very quickly before maybe in some cases even getting to the care rep. So what that's going to lead to when you have 75% call reduction, right? You're reducing calls, right? So the numbers that I recently heard, right, that I saw on the conference, T-Mobile at peak, they were taking 3 million calls per week. That's a lot. So you reduce that by 75%, at least that's the goal. Now you're only taking 750,000 calls, which is still a lot, but it's reduced. So you don't need as many call centers, care reps. You get my drift, right? So that essentially, right? You now don't have to have as many outsourced care reps, right, overseas. So now you bring those jobs back stateside. So they have call centers now in Oregon, the Midwest, Albuquerque, New York. They have several call centers now around the United States, which created jobs for those areas. So now, 9 times out of 10, I've noticed this recently, right? And I know some of you will have a different experience, but 9 times out of 10, If you call care now during the day, during normal business hours, you are going to connect to somebody stateside. And that in itself, it's already a better customer service experience versus going outsourced. 9 times out of 10, I called like in the last week, I had some transactions, some stuff taking place for the holidays. I called like 6 times. And every time I called the first try, I got somebody stateside. So I want to applaud John Fryer for that, because that was his goal, his mission, right? Before he took over customer care, that was kind of going more outsourced, for those of you who remember, right? You were calling and then you were getting more outsourced. He brought it all back, not all positions, but he brought it back stateside. And now with the AI model, they're going to reduce the calls, so it should stay stateside, right? The reason a lot of calls were going outsourced is because when you're taking 3 million calls per week, and then maybe even more, the queue is kind of packed. You don't have enough reps stateside to take all the calls in the queue, so then they get bounced, they get outsourced. So, as an example, on Christmas Day, I had to call for an activation. All the care centers were closed, of course, in the US, and then I got a call from an outsourced rep. And the experience is totally different, right? They got the task done, but there's a language barrier. So those are the 3 main topics that I think T-Mobile needs to focus on. The network, right? That's a big proponent. Like I said, component. That's a domino effect that triggers everything else. And then the value, right? How much more value can T-Mobile create, right? Can they do new plans next year? Can they bake in additional perks, right? All of that is a possibility. And then customer service, just to recap, customer service is big. It has to be exceptional. It has to be great. It has to be straight to the point, and it's got to be painless. With Verizon and AT&T, that was a nightmare. Last time I had AT&T, you didn't know who you were going to get on the phone when you call customer care. You got connected to Uverse and you had to get transferred. Then you were ending up on DirecTV. It was just a mess, big old mess. And the same rep, they could not take care of your entire account. So they had to transfer you for certain issues. Verizon, that was the same. It was a mess. Verizon has acknowledged their customer service is the worst, and that they have bad customer service and that they need to fix that. So we'll see how it turns out in 2025. But those are the 3 main pillars, in my opinion, that T-Mobile needs to really look at and study to get the lowest churn in the industry. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Live. See y'all in the next one. Peace.